Man, it's been a long one today. Got up really kind of at a halfway decent hour this morning. I think it was 6 when I woke up. But it's April. Everything is going full force, and I'm not gonna lie to you. I'm a little bit tired, and it ain't time to be tired yet. But if I look frazzled, that's why. So, we went fishing this morning, man. Dad and my brother and we went to Tennessee River, and we just knocked out some white cat. And I caught a channel cat and some other little stuff. I think we caught a striper and a clam too. Just to spice things up. But we caught a bunch of fish and had a good time. And came home, ran errands, went and got the tractor, did cow stuff, shot another video, did this, did that, and man, I'm beat. And just sitting here reflecting on interactions that I've had for the last day, few days, week, and something I've been trying to mull over in my own brain is how we're supposed to act as Christians and the standards that we hold ourselves to, and is that standard another person? Is it another Christian? I saw one of our former preachers one of our former preachers from our congregation when I was out shopping the other day, and I have a lot of respect for that person and their wife. Just great Christian people. And it made me think about, am I what I'm supposed to be? Do I set the standard like he did for our congregation? I'm a minister at a church. In my family, in my extended family, like, not my wife and kids, but like your aunts and uncles and parents and brothers and sisters-in-laws and stuff. Am I that person that I'm supposed to be for them? Can they look at me and say, man, this is why it's important to glorify God, to worship God, to have a good relationship with God, so that you can see fruits from it? Do people see me and see the fruits of God? That's what I'm saying. And in my immediate family, probably not all the time. Everybody has faults, but I'm not the husband that I want to be all the time. I'm not the father I want to be all the time. So, does anybody see the fruits of what we're supposed to be? And who do I measure myself against? Well, the answer is obvious. It's Jesus. It's not the preacher that's been preaching for 50 years. It's not your parents all the time. Maybe you got great Christian parents. Maybe you don't. But let me do it from a different angle. While we as parents are supposed to be role models for our children of what we're supposed to be, and that's healthy, the ultimate role model is not our parents. We have this method of looking at life through what we can see, and that's our parents as role models, that's our grandparents as role models. And while that is healthy to some degree, our true role model and what we should measure ourselves against is not grandpa, it's not dad, it's not grandma, it's not mom, it's not that older brother, sister that raised us, or whatever your situation may be. But what we need to weigh ourselves against is Jesus Christ. Now, that's for the good stuff, but what about the bad stuff? Don't we often get in the habit of, well, I'm doing better than that person is, so you know what, I'm okay. I don't know if you should look at it that way or not. Actually, I do. You shouldn't look at it that way. Do you remember the parable in the Bible where they're, I guess, before the altar, and I'll put the scripture up right here after I edit the video, but the one man goes up there and he sees the other guy and he says, Lord, I'm thankful that I'm not like this fella right here. And the other fella says, Lord, have mercy on me, I'm a sinner. You remember that one? You know, are we to look at other people and say, hey, I don't mess this thing up, and they do, so I'm doing pretty good? No, don't think so. Don't think that's how you're supposed to do it. You know, that verse in the Bible, that stretch of verses in Matthew 7 about judging others, Jesus says, judge not that you be not judged, for with what judgment you judge, you will be judged, and with which measure you use, it will be measured back to you. So, you know, if I'm forgiving to people, if I don't want to say accept their faults, because you don't accept people's faults. You know, you love them until they grow out of those faults, or you bear with them until Jesus makes it right. But if we're merciful to people, man, that's what God's going to give us. If I look at someone who does have very noticeable, evident faults, like myself, then, and I give them mercy, if I give them, if I have long suffering towards them, if I put up with it, and I don't mean in an unhealthy way, I mean in a healthy way, like, you know, everybody's got faults, and I know that you're human, so I'm gonna bear with you, that kind of putting up with it, then I think you're on the right track. He says in verse 3 of Matthew chapter 7, he says, why do you look at the speck in your brother's eye, but do not consider the plank in your own eye? Or how can you say to your brother, let me remove the speck from your eye, and look, a plank is in your own eye? In other words, look, you got a little piece of sawdust or splinter or whatever you want to say in your eye, and you see it in their eye, but in your eye you've got a 2x4 sticking out. You know, that's the modern vernacular there. It's a little bit hypocritical, isn't it? Well, Jesus says that in verse 5. He says, hypocrite, first remove the plank from your own eye, and then you'll see clearly to remove the speck from your brother's eye. And that little stretch of verses right there is used all the time to say that we're not supposed to judge other people. There's two senses of judging people. Number one is the judgment that God gives, you know, worthy servant, unworthy servant, heaven, hell, you know, that's the eternal judgment. That's for God. That's not for us to do. But are we supposed to judge people? Yes. Are we supposed to judge situations? Yes. You know, how else will you know whether or not you're doing what the Bible calls for? How do you know? How do you know you're on the path to God? How do you know you're on the path to heaven? How do you know you're on the path to well done, my servant, on the judgment day? How do you know that if you don't judge? You see, we're supposed to judge with righteous judgment. And how do we get it? Well, Jesus. How do we know what Jesus wants us to do? The Bible. But I think that this part in verse 5 is really glossed over. He doesn't say, hypocrite, you've been doing that, you can't tell nobody else to not do it. That's not what he says. He says, hypocrite, first remove the plank from your own eye, and then you will see clearly to remove the speck from your brother's eye. What a thought. He doesn't say, don't tell somebody whenever they're messing up. And I'm not telling you to go out and be wagging your finger at people, or to be talking down to people, or saying, hey, you don't need to be doing that. You know, Ephesians 4:15 says that we're supposed to speak the truth in love. And that's a very fine line to walk on, because if you want to alienate somebody, you want to push them away from God, you want to make sure that you never have the space or the ability to talk into their life, to speak into their life, go wagging your finger at them. Talk down to them. Tell them, say, hey, you ain't supposed to be doing that. Look at them dirty. Give them that stank eye, you know. Hey, that'll seal the deal right there. You'll never have that opening to to show them what God is, to show them how we're supposed to act as Christians if you do that. Jesus says, first remove the plank from your own eye. Do you do the things that you are thinking that this other person's not on the right track for? I'd say probably so. You know, I always like to use extreme examples to illustrate my points. You know, do I look at a murderer and say I don't murder? No, I don't. But can I honestly say that I've never thought in my heart that I'd like to kill somebody? No way. I'd be a liar if I told you that. And what's Jesus say? If you commit adultery in your heart, what are you? You're an adulterer. If you commit murder in your heart, what are you? You're a murderer, you know? Because we're spiritual beings. We're not just fleshly chunks walking around and just, it's not how it is. So, if I see a quality or something in somebody else that kind of rubs me the wrong way that I don't like, and I want to say something to them in love, you got to do it that way. You always got to do it in love. If I want to say something to them about something that they're doing that I know is not right, I better be very sure that I've got that eliminated from my life, or else I'm a hypocrite. You know, do I want to call somebody out for being bad or doing stuff the wrong way? I need to think about that. If you go back and read your Bible, who's the only people that Jesus really condemned or called out in the Bible? Said, hey, you ain't doing what you're supposed to be doing. It's the Pharisees, the scribes, remember? I guess the Sadducees. And who were they? They were the people that were holier than thou, right? The people that would go to other people and say, hey, you ain't living right. You ain't doing what you're supposed to be doing. That's who Jesus called out. He didn't call out the people that, you remember the woman that was caught in adultery? He said, no one convicts you and neither do I. Go and sin no more. You know, Jesus is God, obviously, but he was a man while he was here on earth, and he knew how to deal with people. He didn't just go out and saying, hey, look, I don't fill in the blank, and you do. Well, you ain't supposed to be doing that. It's not exactly how he did it. So the next time that you have somebody that you're interacting with and you know that they're doing something that ain't right, well, you know what? You need to be as wise as a serpent and harmless as a dove, right? You need to perceive the situation, think about the situation, see if you have understanding on the situation, and see if you have the ability to speak to it. You know, if you're going to be a hypocrite speaking to something, maybe you might think on it, pray on it some more, work on yourself. Because here's the thing. If I tell you, do not be eating chocolate cake, you ain't supposed to be doing that, and you come to the local cafe and you walk in and I'm having that weak moment and I got that big old slice of chocolate cake and I'm supposed to be on a diet, you ever going to listen to me about that again? No way. No way. You're going to look at me and say, you hypocrite, you ain't supposed to be eating chocolate cake. So, okay, well, after a long day, that's my thoughts on stuff. I hope that maybe that puts you in the mindset to be more godly, to think about your interactions with people, and to be pleasing to Jesus Christ, because that's what it's all about. We want to be pleasing to Jesus and glorify Him. And if I'm pushing people away from God because I'm a hypocrite and telling them what they should be and shouldn't be doing, well, maybe I shouldn't be doing it. So, tell me what you think in the comments. Don't forget, hit that subscribe button. I want to see you back here. Hope you look forward to seeing me again, because I'll be back tomorrow. God bless you. Have a good night.